Hi, and welcome back to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Canary Room. I can't quite believe we're 5 episodes in. I must start the show with a huge thank you. A huge thank you for those of you who've donated online. So Ronald Paris and David Lefevre, thank you very much indeed for your very kind donations to the show. Very much appreciated. Coming up on the show today, we've got, well, a return of all your favourites. We've got Bird of the Week, a fantastic lesser Redpoll cock that we'll have a good look at. We've got the Redpoll Diaries, which, well, I'm pleased to say there's no drama in this week. We've got the formation of our Allied to White line, so we'll have a good look at that. We've got eggs in the Canary Room, and we're going back on the road. We're back over to Malta to conclude that. And then moving forward, the next 2 episodes of the Canary Room are going to be on the road. So we've been down to see Julian in Julian's Canary Bird Room, and we've been down to see Steve Dominy and Bob Pepper. So we saw Steve and Bob of Yorkie Supreme, so we had a look there. So I've got 2 special episodes for you coming up for episode 6 and episode 7 of this season, so look out for them. They a real joy to film. You'll notice as well I've got a new microphone. This is because the lapel mic is broken, and this is actually the second time I've filmed episode 5 of the show, because when I went to edit it and play it all back, there was no audio. Now, some of you might say, that's not a bad thing, Matt, we just want to see the birds, but there is audio now, I hope. As always, grab yourself a cuppa in what are pretty difficult times across the globe, lose yourself for half an hour, and enjoy the show. So in the last episode, we saw the formation of the cinnamon line, and the cinnamons have been breeding like crazy over the course of the last 2 weeks, and so hopefully we will have some cinnies for the show bench later this year. This week it's all about the formation of the Allied to White line. Now, Allied to White in Fife Canary terms covers a whole section and series of colours from white, just pure white, to self blue, and every colour in between. Now, I've always been a huge fan of the Allied to White birds. My first ever win was as a Fife exhibitor was a novice. It was at Liverpool Old Swan Cage Bird Society. It was a self blue hen that I bred, which was best novice and best opposite sex on the day. I have enjoyed some success with the Allied to White birds on the bench, winning Best Allied with a variegated white cock before, with blue hens as well. I've had second best, and my best in show, which I won in 2017, was a heavily variegated Allied to White bird, so heavily variegated blue. She won best in show for me the first time I'd achieved that, so they will always have a special place in my heart. They are a beautiful bird, really, the Allied. So what I've got this year is, very much with the cinnamons, is the formation and the start of a new stud. Now, what I've done, I waited some time to acquire the cock bird. Now, the one thing I'll say is we film the Canary Room, in March and April and May. The birds aren't in show condition, they're in breeding condition, so they don't look necessarily the shape that you'll see them later on in the year. So the cock bird, we met him on the first episode of the Canary Room, Season 3. The cock bird took me some time to acquire. But it goes to show that, patience is really important. Now, he was bred out of a self-blue hen and a heavily variegated buff cock by Gerald Spencer. I waited to acquire him, and he has got 3 hens to run over this year. The first hen is a self-green yellow hen. Now, she's bred down from the variegated yellow cock and the heavily variegated buff hen that are the formation of our light line in the shed. So she's bred down from a variegated yellow cock from that line, and also a variegated buff hen who's bred down from the cinnamon line. So you'll remember we've got a clear white bird in the cinnamon line as well. So those lines are related, as are the clear lines. And what that will mean is, you know, a few years down the line, I'll have birds I'll be able to pull from and put back into that line. And that's really important, that forward planning, thinking about the birds that, you know, form the start of the line. I've also got a variegated yellow hen to go with the blue cock. Now, she is directly bred down from that line. So her mother is the heavily variegated buff hen, and her father is the variegated yellow cock. So she will form a part of that line. Her sister is in the cinnamon line. So you can see that the allied to whites and the cinnamon lines I'm creating have got anchor birds in them that are related, and that will be really, really important moving forward. The final bird that we've got in that line is another variegated. Now that variegated is unrelated. So she came from Gerald Spencer's stud, but she isn't related to anything else I've got in the Canary Room, which will be good. So that'll give a little bit of freshness in there as well. So that's the foundation of the allied to white line. We'll see how it goes over the weeks and months ahead as we check on its progress right here in the Canary Room. There's been quite a lot of activity in the room since you were last here, and we've got our first eggs. So we've got a couple of hens, 3 hens in fact, sitting on eggs. So the oldest canary in the shed, an orange ring, the heavily variegated, she's on 4 eggs. We've got a ticked buff hen, she's on 3 eggs. We've got a self-green yellow hen who's also on 3 eggs. Now what I've done, because the temperature is all over the place at the moment, we've got some nice sunny days, but we've forecast another cold snap. And what I've done, it's still very early in the season, there's quite a bit of breeding going on in the Canary Room, but it is still quite early. So what I've made sure is that I haven't taken the eggs away. Now I normally would, and later in the season I would, and the reason that we take the eggs away is so that the chicks all hatch at the same time, and so they've all got an equal chance of survival. The risk in doing what I've done is that chicks will hatch, you know, 1 on day 1, 1 on day 2, 1 on day 3 and 1 on day 4. And the difference between a day-old chick and a 4-year-old chick, a 4-day-old chick rather, is quite considerable. So we'll keep an eye on that over the course of the weeks ahead. So we've seen some breeding. We've got our reds. One of our reds has now laid its 3rd egg, and she's starting to sit. And that's one of the other things you'll notice, that birds often won't sit straight away and fully incubate, almost like they know they've got to wait till the clutch is complete before they go into an incubation period. We've also got the border hen, which is built up, and as we've been filming the show, the borders have mated. Now, fingers crossed, they've been trimmed, fingers crossed everything will work for them and we'll get some borders as well. There are a number of pans now in the room. Normally what I do, I don't put a pan into the cages until the birds have been mated. What I've done just over the weekend is I've put pans into all of the hen canaries now. And you'll notice behind me, you can see that the Redpolls have also got their pans in place, although it will be some time before I anticipate them going down. What's interesting, as the birds in here start to breed and get ready and nest, so do the birds in the garden. So I managed to capture a pair of long-tailed tits messing around in one of the bushes, and then also it looks like in a conifer tree just outside that I've got a pair of wood pigeons nesting, So I've seen one of the birds on the fence with lots of twigs, and it looks like they're going to nest in there. So as it comes to nesting, it's time for this week's top tips. So we've got a number of top tips for you in March. The first one is to do with the drinkers. So one of the things I do with all the drinkers and the waters is that I plan a specific day of the week to give the soluble solutions. So this time of year I'm using a Calcivit, I'm using another product, AV Gold Advance, and I'm using Breed Max. Now I'll give Breed Max once a week on a Wednesday. I'll give Calcivit and once a week on a Sunday. We're giving apple cider vinegar with the mother on a Saturday, and then for Tuesdays and Thursdays the birds will get AV Gold Advance, and that will give them lots of different probiotics, etc. in the drinking solution, so they've got everything that they need for a successful breeding season. But before I do that, I give the drinkers a really good clear out. Now I'll do this fortnightly, so I'll use a Milton based solution. We use Dr. Johnson's, as you know, in the Canary Room, and I'll pop that in to let them soak for a couple of hours. And what that does is it means the birds don't have drinkers on them for a couple of hours, so when you put the drinkers back on, as we'll see here, the birds quickly take the drink. Now that's another tip. If you've got birds that are poorly, if you take the drinker off for a while and then pop it back on, they will go straight to it. And if you've got medicines or anything else in there, then that'll be a way to for them to take it. Our second top tip is with regards to nesting material. Now we use different types of nesting material in the Canary Room. We're using jute string, we're using a sisal, and we've got another almost cotton wool like, it's like kapok, almost like a cotton wool like thing to help the birds build their nests. I offer the jute string first for them, and then I'll offer the other things there. Generally they're whiter, and they'll take those, and they like to use them, they like to use them to build their nests. I have got one bird who's decided, despite the fact I gave her a nest pan, one of the cinnamons, or the cinnamon hen, has decided she wants to nest in the corner. I wouldn't really recommend that. I have had chicks hatching that way before. She's dead set, so I'm not going to be able to break that. What I will do is put a pan in the corner for her so that the eggs aren't rolling around. So those are our first two top tips. The second, our third top tip relates to it relates to stealing something from the baby again. Not proud of this, I have to say. It is wipes. And baby wipes are a fantastic invention, as parents will tell you. I've spent most of the last 4 weeks wiping sick off my shoulder. But one of the things that they're also good for is using them to clean the plastics down in the bird room. So get a wipe, any brand will do, and you can just wipe over. This time of year it gets quite dusty in the Canary Room, so just wipe over the seed hoppers, and you'll make them clean. So that's this month's top tips. Next time round we'll look at what we add in to the egg food mix during the breeding season, so stay tuned for that. Our bird of the week this week is a delightful lesser Redpoll cock. Now you'll see he's in incredible condition. He is with a Scotch fancy hen, not because he's not a bird of real quality, because he absolutely is, but I have nothing else to pair him up with. He's on, I think, an orange ring, this bird, so, you know, he may or sadly may not make the season, but what I wanted to do is take a closer look at him. So I've popped him in the cage. You can see that the Siberian goldfinch cock that we had in there has left that cage. He's back in with one of the hens now, and this bird is a stunning bird. If you look at the poll on the top of his head, you'll see the deep rich of colour. He's got richness right the way down his chest. He's almost like a robin, but he is this week's bird of the week. So he is an absolute belting bird, which is a lovely little segue into the Redpoll Diaries. Now, it's a relatively quiet time for the Redpolls. You'll see that the Redpoll cock that we've just seen was in the cage that we had the goldfinch cock in. Now, the goldfinch cock has been introduced to one of the goldfinch hens. I do think now I've got two hens. I thought I might have two cocks, but we can see them here displaying to each other, starting to display to each other. So one of the hens looked a little bit further advanced than the other, although the other isn't far behind. So what I've done is I've popped him in with her, and we'll see how he gets on. The Redpolls have all got now their nest boxes in. I've offered them a little bit of material, but they've not been keen to use it as yet. So one of the things that we're going to look at is you know, these pairs and how they get on over the weeks and months ahead. Say it's mid-March, I don't expect any activity from them or any eggs at all from them till April, maybe May, maybe even June. So we'll just admire them for now. And, you know, people often say to me, they cause you so much frustration, Matt. You know, how come you've got them in the room? Well, they're a real beautiful bird. You know, I think some people look at them and think they look like sparrows, but for me, you know, with that red chest, certainly in the cockbirds, they're a real thing of absolute beauty. And so we'll keep them in here, and we'll see how they get on over the weeks and months ahead. And I'm sure there'll be highs and lows, and lows and lows, and disasters, no doubt. But we're giving them egg food and we're giving them live food, just gradually trying to bring them into condition. Lighting's going on by 15 minutes every week as well, so we're over 12 hours of daylight now in the Canary Room. So let's check out them and see how they get on in the weeks and months ahead. One of the things that we're looking for in the Canary Room at this time is the way that birds come into condition. Now, you'll hear some of the hens trilling for the cockbirds. You'll hear the cockbirds bouncing up and down. What I'll do is I've got a number of the cockbirds singled off because they've got multiple hens to run with, and I'll keep them single so they don't, you know, they don't form a pair bond. Some of the other birds in the day, I'll run in the morning and I'll leave them with their intended mate all day, and then I'll take them out overnight. What I find is that the canaries will generally mate first thing in the morning and then last thing at night. And what I'll do, as we can see here, is I'll run a cockbird in and run him into the cage and, you know, let him sing. Often he'll mate straight away, depending on the condition of the hen, and then I'll run him back into the cage and return him to his stock cage. Now, working as I do, it can be quite difficult. It can be quite a challenge, particularly, you know, as we saw earlier on with the blues. I've got birds with 3 or 4 hens that they've got to mate. So what I don't expect is for every hen and every egg to be completely and totally full. It's the risk, if you like, of running cocks with multiple hen birds. Not everything will be full. But we're always interested in quality in the Canary Room and not necessarily quantity, so it's an approach I take, and so far it's yielded some success. So we'll see as the weeks and months pass by how many chicks that we get here in the Canary Room. It's time for us to go back for part 2 on the road to Malta. It was an incredible trip with the Malta Cage Birds Association, and a real pleasure to go and judge there and spend 5 days in the relative warmth, not like the UK was in December. So one of the highlights of the trip, as always, is meeting fanciers from various different backgrounds, various different countries, and also the judges. And we had a number of Italian judges there. So I was really in awe of the birds that were on display. There was natives, a fine selection of coloured canaries, and also what I could only describe as prehistoric type canaries, birds I'd never seen before. There were frills, there was all kinds on display, a real pleasure to look at. The show itself, well, it was won by, certainly the Fife section was won by a lovely guy called Adrian Falzon, and the novice was won by Mark Pizzuto, or Sabutio as we affectionately called him. Mark and Adrian have gone into partnership, I understand, this year, so they'll take some beating on the bench. Good friend Mark Cicluna did very well as well. He had a couple in the top 7 of the champions. So all in all, the awards were kind of spread round, and everybody seemed to enjoy it. The birds on display were, of a really good standard, and that was lovely to see, really lovely to see, and very similar to the model that we have in the UK here, which was fantastic. So that was the end of our journey, and then we jumped on a plane and back into the freezing cold. So my thanks to everybody associated with the Malta Cage Bird Association, and I hope to get back out to Malta very soon. I had a fantastic question in through Messenger this week, which is about, how do you put together a line of birds? It was a conversation that I had with Bob Pepper when I was in his shed. And there's no right or wrong way, so it's only experience and advice that I can offer. But what I would say to you is, you want to start with one really good cock bird, and you want to get a number of really good hens. And if you pair that cock bird over, say 3 hens in the first year, and then you look at the offspring of those birds, you keep his best 2 sons, you keep 6 of his best daughters, and you pair them together in the second year. And then from that, you look for the next 10 best daughters and another 2 best sons. So over third year, you've got 5 cock birds together, and then you've got, sort of 14 hens, 15 hens to build your stud around. The key, the absolute key, is patience. Unfortunately, it's not something that the modern day bird keeper is very equipped with, and I see a lot of people who chase success, almost at all costs, and don't really have a strong family line of birds, and it is proven time and time again. You look at some of the best stockmen in the world, and they will tell you, it's about patience. You need a bit of luck as well, but what birds in your room you expect the really good youngsters to come from. I certainly know it here in the Canary Room this year, but of course we'll see what happens over the weeks and months ahead. I hope that answers your question. Thanks very much for getting in touch with the show. You too can through our Facebook channel. You can contact me on Messenger, or you can leave a comment on our YouTube channel below, and we will come back to you. When we say will, it sounds like there's loads of people who do this. It's just me, so I will come back to you. So that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for watching the show. If you've enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and pop a comment down below. Next time out, we will be at Julian's Canary Bird Room, so we've got a whole show coming from Julian's, and then we will go to the Yorkie Supreme stud. So we'll see Bob Pepper and Steve Dominey. We'll be back here in the Canary Room in 4 or 5 weeks' time. So don't worry, I'll have the cameras ready and I'll catch all of the goings on as they happen. Until next time, in difficult times, take care.